Shut up and sit down.
Okay.
We're on. Mics are hot. Mics are hot.
Okay, all right. This is Spoiler Country. I'm Kenric Regan. That's Johnny Horsley over there.
Yo.
And then we have some things to talk about and a review of Kingdom Come, and then we'll let things fly from there. So with that, here we go.
But yeah, so last week we did Craven's Last Hunt, which you suggested that I had to read because it was like the de facto Spider-Man tale, which I guess Kevin Smith agrees with us too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, did you see did you watch that video?
I didn't watch it, but I read what you put up there, and I was like, I kind of figured out what he was saying.
He said the exact same thing that I said.
Did he? Nice.
That's what was so funny about it. I'm like, and we said it. Realistically, we said it like a week before he said it, and then we reviewed it, and then he comes out and he says that, and it was like, oh, we're on the mark.
That's validation right there, man.
It's validation right there from one fat guy to another.
Right, to two others, not just one other. Yeah, it's pretty cool, and so I figured we talked about doing Kingdom Come in last episode, so we might as well just do it on this one because it's one of my all-time favorite stories. So I wanted you to read it, and we could talk about how we felt about it. And since I think you've read it, right?
I did. I read all the books. I purchased it on my Kindle.
Nice.
Actually, on the Kindle app because I read it in my Android tablet, so it's nice and in color.
Right.
And then I read the whole thing in a day.
So did you like it? What'd you think of it?
I think the writing and the art was fantastic. I liked it a lot, actually. It was better than I anticipated.
Yeah.
I like the DC universe. I like particular characters. I haven't been the biggest Superman fan because he's the Boy Scout image that he portrays and the Boy Scout attitude is just not really my cup of tea for somebody that can demolish a planet if they wanted to.
But he's so good in this book.
He is. He's the double meaning of good too, right? He's so good. The writer portrayed him so well. The art was ridiculously awesome.
Well, it's Alex Ross. I mean, Alex Ross is amazing.
Yeah, I don't know how long it took him to paint all that, but I normally don't like comic books being painted like that. I like them to be penciled. Books. Yeah, comic books. I like them to be like that. But his artwork was dumb. It was just dumb.
Right, and because he does these photorealistic paintings of superheroes in storytelling formats, and it's just done so well.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't like was Superman's ponytail. Could have done without that.
Right.
Other than that, it was awesome. And I thought it was interesting. I like the fact that they brought up that he's soaked up so much sun now that kryptonite doesn't really do anything.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting. But that's the knock on Superman most of the time is that he just keeps gaining powers, and he's just more and more invulnerable. How they use Shazam.
Oh yeah, they used him. He was perfect. I loved it.
Yeah. The use of Shazam was perfect. It was interesting to see Batman. I wish I kind of had more of a backstory of what happened while he was in that weird mechanical, back, kind of keeping his neck straight suit thing.
Yeah, well, it's because he's old and he's ancient and been beat to shit.
More backstory to some things. They could do a prequel to that book very easily. Why Superman left and not just. They kind of explain things, but they don't really. They're talking about Magog and the whole everybody dying in Kansas, but you don't really know exactly what happened, right? You just know that a bomb went off.
Yeah, so there actually are some. I haven't read them. There's prequel, or I think there's actually sequels to this Kingdom Come. There might be prequels. I don't know, but there's about 4 other books not by Mark Waid and Alex Ross that are in this universe that came out. Mm-hmm. But they're I haven't read them, and I assume they're not as good because this book just fits so well.
It's a story you can read again.
Right. I've read it probably at least 5 or 6 times since it came out.
And that tells me everything, right? Because most of the stories, like The Fall of the Mutants or Inferno, or most of the ones that come out, or even Infinite Crisis, I couldn't read more than one time.
Right, because it's you're done with it. It's too much, and it's just not interesting enough to go back to.
Right. There's just a few, like the Craven's Last Hunt. I've read a bunch of times. The one I've probably read the most, and I swear to God, I've probably read this story 50 times, is Return of the Dark Knight.
Oh yeah, the first one. Yeah.
Yeah. Those 4 issues was just ridiculous. It was an amazing story. I don't know. I've read it a million times, no less than 50 times though, guaranteed. Right. And Kingdom Come is I mean, is it the fall? Is it the Dark Knight? To me, no, but it's really good. I mean, it's the best Superman story I've ever read.
Well, for me, it's
Hands
like
down for me.
I really enjoy DC when they tell stories that involve more than just one character like this. You know, where it's kind of like you're reading a DC universe story. Like this Kingdom Come, Superman's kind of like your main-ish character, but it's not really a Superman story. It's a story about the whole, the whole universe with him as like the forefront character. And I've always enjoyed like how they tie those other characters in together and how they see each other. Like I think Mark Waid did a great job in this book about talking about how other characters see Superman and see each other, and how like what they did after he left, like how they handled themselves after he left, and what they accomplished and what they eventually didn't accomplish too.
Right. I really love Spectre. I think he's one of the coolest characters. I love that aspect of how he was, and It was interesting to see. It was so much like Dante's Inferno, where they have a witness. Yeah. And he's going through the different layers of what's going on. I mean, it wasn't obviously the 9 circles of hell, but I mean, there were some parallels going on there. And it brought back Scrooge as well, with Ebenezer and the 3 ghosts, even though Spectre would be all 3. Even, they're not time jumping so much, but just the aspect of, we're going to go through this journey and we're going to go together, but we're just going to watch what happens, and you're going to see these outcomes that are possible. And it was very interesting. I'm pretty sure, what is his name, Mark Waid?
Yeah, Mark Waid is the writer, yeah.
Yeah, he must have been reading or at least getting influenced by Dante's Inferno. There's just too many parallels.
Oh, I'm sure.
But you know what? I think my favorite aspect of that book was the political aspects of mortal people with no superpowers and the impact that all these metahumans are having.
Yeah.
And the feeling of uselessness and the feeling of we have to rely on these people. We have no idea what kind of person they're going to be, what decisions they're going to make, and how they're going to judge right from wrong. And the fact that things happen and people just start attacking somebody in the middle of a crowded city, Hey, you killed 1,000 people, but you got your man, right?
Right.
And I thought that was really cool, because that's one thing that you see all this destruction in superhero books, and they slow, and sometimes they touch on it, but not to the level of, hey, we're going to the UN and explain ourselves. And that's the one thing I did like about Superman, saying we have to do this right.
Right.
We do have a lot of power. We do have a lot of say in how things are handled, and we need to take direction from the masses, not just what we individually think is the right thing to do. And I thought that was foretelling, because I think if Superman was real, I think that would be something that would have to happen. That's what I liked about Batman versus Superman, is the fact that they took that stand of people saying, go away, alien, and showing Superman being hung with the dummies and stuff, and saying they don't need a Superman. But then there's the other faction of people, how much they love Superman. And then the political aspect of them saying, you can't just decide what's right and wrong and when did things happen just because you want it to happen.
Right.
There's procedures. There's process.
Yeah, I like the thought of that in BVS. I just don't think they executed the explanation of what that was, what that meant in the broader scheme of things very well in the movie.
Well, it's all due process. That's your right. That's your legal, especially in America, that's your legal right, is due process.
Right.
And when those things are not upheld, then it becomes anarchy and chaos. People don't get, justice isn't served. And just because you have the ability to pick up that Titanic and drop it on somebody's head doesn't mean that that's what you do,
Exactly.
So I like that part of the book. I really like that a lot, actually. I wish they would have explored more of that. I thought it was interesting that the civilians just launched 3 nuclear missiles.
Right.
Like, really? I mean, I guess that's the one thing I wish they would have expanded on, is how many people are actually fighting. Because they just kept saying, if this war continues between the metahumans, it'll end the world. But it's like, well, it's all contained in Kansas at this point, and you've already sent 3 nuclear bombs over to it.
Right.
What does that mean? You're just going to drop 3 nuclear bombs in the middle of the Midwest?
That's going to, well, I mean, depending on how big those bombs are, that's going to destroy a lot of stuff.
Well, right. I liked, and then I wish there was a little bit more influence on what Lex Luthor was doing to Shazam.
Yeah, I've always kind of wanted to know more about that backstory and how he influenced Shazam to do what he did. But I think the ultimate end of Shazam in that book was handled really well.
Yeah. I mean, apparently it was the worms that was making Billy Batson crazy.
Yeah.
They don't explain where those worms came from and what was actually going on.
No.
I just like the fact that everybody was scared of Shazam because they know he's like the one person in the DCU that could go punch for punch with Superman and could possibly win.
Yep. Yeah, because he has all the strength and speed that that he has. Plus, he's also magic based, which Superman's weak against magic.
Right.
So the Shazam bolt would hurt Superman.
Well, it was killing him.
Yeah.
I mean, whether he would have stayed dead, it's another question, but it was definitely hurting him. And then he finally broke through to him, and then he goes up and sacrifices himself, which was a lot of people died, but not as many as could have.
Right. It's just a great moment in the comic too, how it happens and how he has a little bit of redemption there at the end.
Yeah. It was interesting. It was a cool read, man. I'll definitely read it again. I liked it a lot.
It's if you have time, there's actually a novelization of it too that's really good. It goes into a lot more detail and stuff.
Oh, really? They did the same thing with Kraven. They did a novel of that. Yeah.
I knew that because I think I used to have it, the book version of that. I never read it, but I had it on my shelf for a long time.
Yeah, I've never read it. I don't think I'd be really interested in reading the novel just because I read the comic book and that's the medium that was written in.
Right, and the pictures really help. But the Kingdom Come novel, I did read that. I actually read that first before I read the graphic novel. It just goes, it's very similar, but it just goes into more detail on stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that it was the kids and the grandkids of all the people that we always read was the one causing all the issues.
Right, the next generation of the spoiled brats, next generation, which was the ones, yeah.
Which ties into the end of the book. Which which you and I talked about is one of your favorite scenes in the whole book. One of my favorite moments, not even just in that book, just in comics in general, just that moment at the end when Wonder Woman and Superman sit down with Batman and have that conversation. It's like that, and that line Batman says, it just, you just gave me control of the most powerful kid in the universe or something like that. It's like, that's fucking awesome. Like that kid, I liked it. That kid's going to be a badass. When I read that scene, yeah, right. When I read that scene, I took it as Batman and Superman. Not Superman so much because I think Superman had always felt that him and Batman were alike. Just their execution was different, but their belief system was the same. And I kind of felt like at that moment, Batman really realized that. Bruce Wayne really realized it as well. As much as they fight, as much as I want to say hate in quotation marks Superman, that really is his best friend.
Right. It's the only person.
There's a real big bromance going on there.
Yeah, he's literally the only person who can understand where he's coming from and what he's trying to accomplish, just even if it's in different means.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was great. They should do a movie with it. I don't know if they could do a live action movie, but they should do an animated movie.
An animated movie, that would be so great. I would love for them to eventually do. I would love to see a live action version of this, like an Elseworlds movie. Oh, like an Elseworlds movie of Kingdom Come, where it's even use the same actors that are currently there, and just add more and make a one shot movie of this story. I think it'd be so great. It'd be something they don't do. And that leads me into this thing is they were talking. I heard there's rumors right now about them shopping on the idea of doing a Superman Red Sun movie, I guess with Henry Cavill, just like an Elseworlds movie, which sounds kind of odd, but if you think about it, it's something that DC could do to separate themselves, right? They can have their main, continuity movies, but if they threw in like an Elseworlds movie with just taking those characters, throwing them into an Elseworlds story like Kingdom Come or Red Sun or Earth One or something like that, it'd be such a cool concept to just have these movies, but then also have these other tales that just, I don't know, it'd be really cool. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it'd be cool if Marvel did the what ifs.
Right, it'd be awesome.
It's the same kind of concept. I mean, the Elseworlds are different though, because the Elseworld where Batman is a vampire, and he fights, and he beats. I think he ends up beating Dracula at some point, but gets turned into a vampire. Blood Rain. I think is that the name of the series? I think
so. Blood Terror or Blood Rain or something like that.
Yeah, that's a fun series.
Yeah.
And the art in it is fantastic. The ears on Batman's suit are way high. You know what I mean? Extra long, and it looks cool. I have the graphic novel, the hardcover.
Nice. Yeah, I love the Elseworld stories. I wish they'd do more with them as far as movies. Either I'll take cartoon movies or live action ones.
Yeah,
they are doing Gotham by Gaslight as a cartoon now, which is going to be cool.
Right. I sent that to you.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, Batman investigating the Jack the Ripper.
I do wish they'd do more. Like DC kills it in animated cartoons. I wish they would do some more non-Batman centric ones. I understand Batman sells the most, but there's so many good stories they could do that aren't focused on Batman.
They did Flashpoint. That was good.
That Flashpoint was good. That was good, but that was also
Justice League Dark was a lot of fun.
Justice League Dark, but it also had Batman in it.
Yeah, but that was more of a John Constantine movie.
Yeah, it was.
Which I think him and Spectre are my favorite DC characters. I mean, I'm sure I flip every week. But Constantine, cool. I got his first appearance, and then I have most of the Hellblazer run, and then I have all of the newer Constantine runs and the new Hellblazer run. And then I have some variants of Constantine covers that are really cool, like the gold cover.
Yeah.
He's just a fun character to me.
He is.
And plus, I like all the supernatural horror stuff when it comes to comic books. That's probably the things I like the most. So I just took a deep breath and then paused for a second because I couldn't think what I was going to say. But what I was going to say is, when I thought about Kingdom Come, well, I was going to ask you a question, not what I thought about. I wanted to ask you about Kingdom Come. Do you feel like it is more like an Elseworlds, or is it just the future?
Well, it's always been portrayed as an Elseworlds, but in my mind, in my head canon, I always see it as the future of the DC universe, how we get to the next generation of heroes. That's how I've always seen it. But how
far in the future can it be? Because Superman has gray hair, and I just think by the time Superman actually gets gray hair, Batman will be dead.
Right.
Unless he's developed some serum to keep him alive.
Well, if I remember right, and it's been, like I said, it's been 2 years since I've read the story or so. Superman has himself locked up in the Fortress of Solitude, right? In a like a holographic environment that ages differently or something like that.
Right. He's created his own. I thought it was in Kansas, and he had a dome in Kansas, but it might be that he's in he might be in the Fortress of Solitude. But he created like a whole ranch, and he's working and feeling the tilling the fields and everything.
And I may be totally wrong, but does time pass normally there, or does time pass differently there? I don't remember.
No, I think it's just all normal. They don't say anything about time passing different. I mean, the old guy, I can't remember his name, but the old guy is like, "Where are we?" And Spectre's like, "We're in Kansas." And he's like, "This can't be." Right. And then Wonder Woman comes and they're talking and she touches the side of the wall, and then you see the whole thing, the whole metal and the whole structure come into view. And then he's inside the structure doing everything, but it's creating an optical illusion inside to make it feel like you're outside. Right.
So I think if this is in the future of the DCU, which it's not because it's an Elseworld story, but if we were to accept that as it being the future, it would have to be. I mean, let's say if right now is the prime, it'd have to be 30, 40 years out from current for where it takes place, because Batman's in his 60s, 70s, and Superman would be gray hairing, and everyone else is grown up and gotten older too. Just Batman ages as a human because he's a human, and everybody else ages as whatever their respective aging is for their powers.
Right. Did you think Lex Luthor looked like Kingpin?
Yes.
It's like you put on a few pounds and boom, you're Kingpin.
Pretty much. If you're bald in a suit, you're Kingpin. If you're overweight, yeah. I did
bald, fat in a suit, you're Kingpin.
I did really enjoy how they handled the Flash in this one.
That was cool concept.
Right. That was so cool.
Yeah, he's not really the Flash anymore.
Right.
He's not a person anymore. He's more of an entity.
Right. He's transitioned planes where he's on both planes at the same time because he just doesn't stop running.
He just doesn't stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool when he pulled the guy out and brought him into the Justice League Fortress.
Right. That was so cool.
And they're like, "What? What are you doing here?"
It's like, I don't think this story could have been told as well without Alex Ross's paintings, because I think his painting just really captured what we were seeing panel to panel. And if this was drawn like a regular comic, I don't think it's the Flash running and the Flash pulling him out and pulling that guy out would have transcribed as well.
Yeah, no, the texture and the richness of the paintings create more depth to what you're looking at. So
right.
I think you're right. I don't think you could really portray what the Flash is better than what Alex Ross put together.
There's a series of large format stories they put out after this one with Alex Ross and various writers. They have one of them called Hope, which is based on Shazam. They have one of them based on Superman. They have one called Justice, which is based on the Justice League. They're all large. They're pretty big books. And
like format, like
large,
style?
large. Yeah, they're like Life, like the old Life magazine size, right? Big.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And, that's cool.
And they're all like the Shazam one's written by Paul Dini, he's the guy who was a big part of the Batman animated show. He created Harley Quinn and stuff like that, and painted by Alex Ross. And they're all painted in this same style, and they're all pretty good too. The point I'm making is I think those ones could have been drawn by somebody else and still been good, but this story I don't think it without Alex Ross and without Mark Waid's writing, I think it's a perfect pairing, right? Is the two lined up very well in this case.
Well, that story is special, and it needed special art.
Right.
You couldn't just have, and you wouldn't do it justice if you just had somebody with a pencil and ink.
Right.
You really needed something different because it's such a different story.
Right.
I hope they think about doing an animated, but even now that we just said that, it's like, how do you do an animated movie for it? Because you'd break it back down to a normal comic book looking.
Well, it's like, it's like you look at Batman, the Killing Joke cartoon, right? They had Brian Boland's artwork on the comic, which was so vibrant and so, his artwork was, love that book or hate that book, the artwork was amazing in the Killing Joke. The details he put into things, the color palette that was used on that by the colorist was so great. Then they put it into a cartoon and they dulled all the color palettes down to normal DC animated cartoons. If they would have kept with, Boland's original color palette, or I don't know if it was his color palette or whoever the colorist was, and stuck it with that, it would have been made for a much better cartoon. But instead they changed it to the normal coloring for cartoon, and it came out kind of bland. It didn't translate as well as it could have.
Yeah, that's a tough transition though. But it
is. It's a super short. It's a short book they're trying to put into a full size movie.
Yeah, I did enjoy the movie. I thought they did for what they did. I thought they did a good job. But the thing is DC, Warner Brothers, with those animated movies, they shoot them really for direct video. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're not really shooting them for film. And I think if they shot them for film, then the money would be there to get that vibrance that you're talking about. They could have done it differently.
There's a fan edit of the trailer for that show, for that movie, where the fan took it and redid all the coloring for the trailer of it completely into the coloring of the comic book, and it looks amazing. I'll send it to you after the list is done. But it looked, if they would have done like that, it would have been really cool.
Yeah. Well, it's all creative process, and
right.
And sometimes hindsight is 20/20, so it's easy for somebody to take it after a finished product and say, well, if you did this, it'd be better.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? You weren't there, and
exactly.
I thought they did a good job. I like the whole thing with Batgirl and creating that stress, and then getting to that point where she kind of freaks out, and then boom, she gets shot.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that build up. I don't really agree with Alan Moore. He's like, oh, I hate that story. Blah, blah, blah. And he's like, but Alan Moore's a freak, man. He doesn't like anything.
Right.
So,
well, he doesn't like anything that gets translated to a movie. That's what he doesn't like. And he also he stated that. Oh my
God, I hate it when people take my stuff and love it. Shut up.
Right. He also that story, he has he didn't like it after he wrote it for whatever reason. He said there's no point to it, but I don't care for that story. I understand why people like that story and why it's so popular as it is, and it has some really good imagery in it. I just never cared for that story very much. When I first read it years ago, I was like, oh, that's okay. It is what it is.
I remember when it came out. I remember everybody got it, and I remember seeing it all over the comic book store at the Paperback Exchange in Bremerton, and going. It was ran by two ladies. I can't remember their name, but the guy that runs the comic book store in downtown Bremerton. Now he knows them. He worked for them, but they had a nice little store, and I remember going in, and they had that front and center on their shelf, and everybody was buying it. And it was a big deal. And then I was talking, to them, and I was, what year did that come out? 88,
something like that, yeah.
87, 88, somewhere around there. I was under 18. They didn't really want to sell it to me. They're like, it's Batman, but it's really not made for somebody your age. But they knew that I read a lot of books. They're like, you know what, we're going to do it. Go ahead. And so I bought it, and I remember reading it, and I liked the book. I was like, oh, this is cool because it was, as violent as The Dark Knight, and I was a huge Dark Knight fan. The book,
right?
But it was, I don't know, it's just it wasn't as polished as Frank Miller's Dark Knight.
No, it's not a polished book. And there's lots of I don't know.
And honestly, it was after Barbara Gordon gets shot, and then you're like, oh well, that was messed up, and then the whole thing of trying to break Jim Gordon going through the amusement park. I thought the flashbacks of how the Joker became the Joker was the most interesting part of the book.
I agree.
And then
honestly,
after that, I was just kind of bored. I was like, I only read that book. I read it once when I got it.
Right.
And then I sold that book so I can buy other books.
Yeah.
Because it was like $20. I think it was worth like $20, and they gave me like $10 in store credit. And I bought like a bunch. I bought $10 in books. I read it a couple years ago when you and I were like, oh my God, we're excited to see a new Batman movie. And that's all it really was. We're excited to see a new animated. Not so much it was The Killing Joke. I think we were excited about The Killing Joke because they put so much marketing behind it more than fact that it was The Killing Joke.
And it was rated R when it didn't need to be rated R, but whatever.
Right. Well, it's the I think they did that to protect themselves because they put that out at PG, and your 10-year-old son watched it, and there's inference of rape.
Right. Well,
then people might freak out, and if they make it rated R right off the bat. And one, it gives people like excitement, like, oh, they're making it rated R, it must be really good, and it double protects them from some 10-year-old seeing it and the parents all of a sudden going on a tirade.
Right, but they also
that's how
in the cartoon though they didn't utilize that R rating, right? Like I understand they used the R rating for the the insinuated rape or the rape of Joker raping or whoever raping Barbara Gordon, whether it's Joker or his henchman, because they don't really tell you anything. And they rated R probably to get around.
You just know they took naked pictures of her.
Right. And there's the whole stupid, like useless sex scene with Batgirl, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever. But
see, that didn't bother me. I mean, it was weird that they put it in, but it didn't bother me. I thought it kind of made sense because they've inferred them together and liking each other throughout. Big time in the Batman animation.
In the animated cartoon,
season 2 or season 3, they inferred that there was something going on there. And that team who made The Killing Joke, so it kind of made sense. It's actually very organic for them to bring it to that level because they're like, let's make a crescendo of this, and we're going to use this as her not becoming Batgirl anymore, but we're going to crescendo this relationship that we started back in '94. So that didn't bother me because I thought of it that way because I think maybe I had a one-up on you because I had gone back and started watching because I'd gotten Amazon, because Amazon Prime had all of the Batman animated TV show on Amazon Prime. So I had watched every single episode before, like a year before The Killing Joke came out. So when The Killing Joke came out and they showed them having a relationship like that, it didn't even faze me because, oh yeah, that makes sense because that's what they've been showing in the animated TV show.
Right. Well, here's the thing, though. Is like, I remember I've watched all the anime show too, and I remember the whole Batgirl and Batman stuff that happened in there. And then there was a video released with Paul Dini and them saying, I think it was Paul Dini or maybe it was Bruce Timm. I can't remember. Whichever one was working on this movie of those two,
right,
talking about this whole thing. Like, we teased it back. We were teasing it or talking about it back in the animated series. It's like, yeah, you did, but this isn't a Batman animated series movie. This is a movie that's written into DC continuity. And it's not the animated Batgirl and animated Batman that's in this movie. It's it's a story based around the continuity, the continuity Batman of the DC comics, and that Batgirl are the ones that live in this universe that tell this story, not the one in the animated series. If they wanted to do the animated series one, they should have done it as an animated series movie in that art style with that kind of storytelling versus trying to make the one from the continuity of the comics come into a cartoon.
Because that animated show was so good and above its time.
Yeah,
they have incorporated aspects from that show into the timeline now. I mean, you have Harley Quinn.
Right.
No, by your reasoning, you can't have Harley Quinn in the comic books then.
No, that's not, you're missing the point. I'm not saying you can't take stuff from one thing over to the other, right? You definitely can. But what they're doing is they're translating a story from one medium to the other one, and then crossing the background of this story they're translating with a different medium of a story, right? They're taking two continuities, one cartoon, one comic, and then making a movie of a story based out of the comic, but having background aspects that are loosely explained from the cartoon that, you know, has been off the air for over a decade that people might not know or remember, and bring it into this, say, okay, this is happening because we teased it back in, 20 years ago in the Batman cartoon, which is, I mean, it's fine.
But it's all comics and animation, man. It's good.
No, it is what it is. It's fine. I just don't care for. I just don't see Batman and Batgirl having a relationship like that.
Yeah.
Especially coming out of the comics, and especially coming out of the context of Killing Joke. I don't see that as something that version of the character would do. The animated character, yes.
I understand what you're saying, but it's not that I guess I don't have the passion about that as much as you do.
You just don't care about things.
I don't care. I think it's fine. I think it's an artistic expression. They used mediums that they were both well known. They understood the animation part because they made that TV show. So they drew on that, and then they probably really loved the Alan Moore story of The Killing Joke, and they wanted to use it to expand their show, to expand their repertoire of what they were going on. So it didn't bother me. I mean, I get what you're saying. Well, is you're taking two completely different backstories, two different backgrounds, two different basic timelines of Batman, because you have different mediums, you have different aspects of what Batman can be, or different ways of storytelling, where the animated show was made for kids, 14, 13,
was it?
12
was it made,
old.
Was it made for kids?
Made for adults.
Was it made for
kids? I think it was. I mean,
it was, but it wasn't.
At the perspective of, think of like the Superman cartoon from like, what was it, 1950s, 1940s? All hand drawn.
Oh, the Max Fleischer ones from the 40s, those are amazing.
Oh man, those are amazing. And they don't hold back.
That's part of why Superman flies. Not part of that is why Superman flies in the comics, is because it was too costly and too time consuming to animate him leaping. It was easier to animate him flying and then holding the cell in the air while he flies. So that cartoon pioneered him flying. So in the comic books, they made him flying.
So the animation dictated the rest of the comic book. So they did it in the 50s. So why can't they do it in 2015?
No. I mean, I think I wasn't clear enough. I don't care that they did it. It doesn't bother me they did it that way. They can. I'm all for them making changes and modifying stories and telling them different mediums how they want to tell them. I just don't have to like it. That's all I'm saying.
That's right.
They can do what they can do what they want to do. I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they can't do it.
Well, it definitely wasn't my favorite Batman animated movie.
No, not by a long shot.
My favorite was the 2-part Dark Knight. So they did a great job on that.
Yeah, those are good. My favorite, I think, is
and the first Year One, Batman Year One. Oh,
my favorite though is Under the Red Hood.
That's a good one too.
I love that one. I love Under the Red Hood.
That's a really good one too. Yeah, I think Year One is probably my single most favorite one though.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've only watched that one once. I should watch that again.
Yeah, I've watched that one a couple times. I have to admit, when it's late at night and I need to fall asleep, I tend to put on a Batman animated movie.
Nice.
So I've watched quite a few of them quite a few times.
Nerd.
The only one I don't like is it The Brave and the Bold, which is like black and white and kind of weird, and I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like the style.
Is it a movie or a TV show?
It's like a limited TV show or something. I'll send you a link.
Yeah, because I don't know.
I didn't like it.
There's the Brave and the Bold TV show that was all campy and funny, with Diedrich Bader as the voice of Batman, but it was all on color. It was actually pretty good because it was very much 1960s Brave and the Bold. Batman teams up with a random character and chaos ensues, and it was all lighthearted and fun. That was on about, I don't know, 10, 15, probably 10 years, less than 10 years ago.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty fun.
What are you reading this week? You reading anything new?
No. Last thing I read was Craven's Last Time. Besides that, I've been crazily trying to get ready for Comic-Con.
Yeah, working on your stuff.
Trying to get I spent all day yesterday, not all day, but part of the day yesterday making business cards for the podcast to hand out down there. I'm trying to make sure I have all my various flyer shit for the Irons anthology done. I spent today trying to get the Irons website, to look more professional. So when people go to it after Comic-Con, like, oh, this looks like something nice, not, oh, this is shit.
Yeah, it looks good. Looks good. People should check out his Facebook page for Ein's Anthology. You can see the bios of the writers that are attributing to it. It's really neat. It's really neat the way you did that.
Yeah, thanks. I thought that was kind of a cool way to talk about who's all part of this book.
So I'm a reader. I read lots of different things. One of my favorite books to read, if you haven't read it, is Sandman Slim. That's a fun read.
You've been trying to get me to read that.
Yeah, it's good. My comic pull list, though, this week is Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe again.
They made another one of those?
And then,
oh, God.
Yep, is Fuck Fairyland. I'm reading Lucifer.
Scotty Young is so good.
Yep. Richard Kadrey just finished up Lucifer, and Richard Kadrey is and the reason I brought up Sandman Slim is because Richard Kadrey is the author of Sandman Slim, who's been writing on Lucifer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I've been reading Rick and Morty, which is a fun read, crazy and a lot more dirty than the cartoon.
Oh, I'm sure.
I read a great series that just came out, that just finished up, as Deadpool versus the Punisher. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, that'd probably be a good fight.
And then, yeah. And then Ed Brubaker, you know who he is, right?
Oh, yeah.
So he put out a new series called Kill or Be Killed. I would highly recommend picking that up. You should check it out. And then, of course, I'm reading Birthright, which is good, which is an Image comic. And my favorite newest one is Copperhead. And I've been talking to you about Copperhead for a while.
I love Copperhead.
And I think we're going to do a review of Copperhead here pretty soon. I don't know if it's going to be next time or post San Diego Comic-Con. I'm not too sure.
It'll probably depend on how fast I can reread it to remember it all.
Yeah, get up to speed on it.
Right. I've read the first. I have not finished. I think I've read the first story arc in that one, but I want to reread it so we can talk about it because I really enjoyed Copperhead a lot.
Yeah, they just finished. I want to say it's the third arc.
Yeah, and there's a new artist on it too, right, or something like that, a new penciler.
Yeah, Drew. So Scott Godlewski was the first artist who had some amazing covers, amazing internal work. It's just ridiculous with Jay Farber.
Yeah.
Who was the writer?
Jay Faber.
He's actually the head writer for the TV show Zoo right now as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you watched that TV show? It's actually really good. Jay Farber, yeah, or Faber, and he's great. The storyline is really good, and now they have Drew Moss drawing for him, and he's really good.
Right? Yeah, they got good talent on that. And what's cool too, I like that story. Not only is it a good story, but the creators seem to really be responsive and care about their fans too, because they've responded to both of us a couple times on Twitter with some bullshit we've put up there. And like when I did the one silly daily comic last year where I redrew one of his covers and posted up there, he responded to it and liked it and stuff, which is pretty nice.
Yeah. They seem like probably good guys. And then another good one that I've read lately, which is just a fun read. It's not anything serious. It probably won't go beyond the few issues that they're putting out. And it's called Nom Wolf. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
So the whole concept is this kid goes to Vietnam, and he's a werewolf, but he doesn't know it. His dad doesn't tell him, because his dad's a werewolf as well.
Oh, nice.
And he was a werewolf during World War II. And so the whole bunch of stuff happens from there, and let the hilarity ensue. It's a fun book to read, though.
God, you read so much more shit than I do right now. I'm so far behind on my reading.
The art is really good. The art is unique. It's not. I think it's not atypical. It's a different style.
How's it spelled? Is it Nom Nam?
Nam. Just put in Nom Wolf and then space comic, because there's like some other stuff that comes up if you do it differently. I mean, it's really just.
Oh, okay.
We're just going to come in and we're going to start right away.
That's cool.
Yeah, we're just going to kick your ass right away. You know what? It's kind of like Archie with the noses and stuff.
A little bit, yeah. The color. Well, I can see that. The color palette's they use a lot of flat tones on it, it looks like, which looks really cool.
Yeah. So that's really good. If you have a chance, you should check out Nom Wolf. So another book is Animosity, and I picked up number 1 for you a while ago.
That's Margaret Bennett, right?
And is it Margaret Bennett? It's on the Aftershock. Yep, Margaret
Dude,
Bennett.
she is such a good writer.
It's on the Aftershock label.
Aftershock kills it on books.
Aftershock right now is killing it. Yeah, they're killing it right now. They're a great publisher to go out there and check out what they got going on, because they got some cool stuff.
Animosity, they got Insects. Both of those are by Margaret Bennett, and the artwork in those is fantastic. I don't know who draws them, but I know Margaret Bennett. Her her writing is fantastic. If you haven't had a chance, if you want a good DC read that's just kind of fun and off off the norm, pick up DC Bombshells. Margaret Bennett wrote that. It's like the DC, like Wonder Woman, Batwoman, Harley Quinn, Supergirl, Batgirl, all those characters done like a 1940s bombshell type stories, which sounds kind of quirky, sounds kind of corny and stuff, but they're told really, really well. And she also did the short-lived A-Force for Marvel, which is like a She-Hulk led Avengers Force team story, and which it was actually also really good as well. Both those were good, fun reads, both one in the DC, one in the Marvel universe of stuff she's done. I'm a big fan of hers.
Oh, that's cool. That's nice.
I met her at Emerald City 2 years ago, I think it was, and she ended up she's not an artist, but I bought a copy of A-Force #1, the blank cover edition, and she drew a picture of Medusa on it for Sadie, my 9-year-old daughter.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I gave it to her, and
how does it
Sadie
look?
It's like a not a very good drawing.
That's all you guys say.
It was beautiful.
It looked amazing.
She has beautiful artwork.
There you go.
I could tell who it was because it had long hair. It was Medusa.
It had snakes for hair.
Right.
I knew exactly who it was.
But yeah, so her stuff.
I'm also. Have you read Saga yet?
Fuck, no, I should. Everybody talks about Saga.
You haven't read Saga at all?
No, I haven't. I've heard about it.
It's been out for like 4 years. You haven't read anything?
No, not a damn page of it. I've seen it. I know what it is. I haven't read it though.
It's pretty good. You should check it out. I mean, the guy that wrote Why the Last Man, Brian K. Vaughan, is writing it.
Yeah, Brian K. Vaughan is he's really good with the stories he tells. Why the Last Man was so good.
Yeah, well, Saga is an Image title, right?
Yeah,
and I think, and he did Why the Last Man. That was a Vertigo title,
right?
And I think Vertigo has now since changed the artist ownership. Like if you write for Vertigo, they own the material, right? Whereas when Why the Last Man came out and like Sandman and all that stuff was owned by the creator, right? It was creator owned.
Essentially, yeah, but
it was on Vertigo.
Vertigo's gone.
No, they're not gone. There's still titles coming out under Vertigo.
Are there? I haven't seen one forever.
Oh yeah. Well, look it up. There's still titles coming out under Vertigo.
Maybe there is. I guess I'm wrong.
Well, they're talking about shuttering it, but they still have titles. I think if their titles are selling, they're not going to just let it go.
Yeah, because I know back when maybe they just slowed it down. Because I know back when they did New 52, they were like got rid of they brought Swamp Thing and John Constantine and all those characters into the DC universe. They canceled all the Vertigo titles that most of them at least, but they might have kept some. I don't know. I just know that the big ones were stopped, weren't running anymore. Like Why the Last Man, Preacher, Hellblazer. Those all like those characters became part of the DC universe.
Well, Preacher only has, or not Preacher, but Why the Last Man only has like 67 issues or something like that. I have all of them.
Right. You number one?
It's not a long run, huh?
You have number one? The first one?
Shut up.
Do number one?
I have a reprint.
Nah.
Second print.
Nah. Whatevs. Whatever you need.
Well, I have it. It's a tough one to get.
It is.
People don't want to give it up. And when you do find it, it's too expensive.
What's funny is, back when I used to have my comic shop, I had so many copies of that book and Preacher 1 and Walking Dead 1, all those books that are now worth lots of money.
Walking Dead number 1 only had 7,000 on its original print run, though.
I know, and I had a lot of them because we ordered a bunch of them when they first came out because we thought, oh, zombies, people like zombies, we'll order a bunch of these. So we ordered a bunch of like number 1, 2, and 3, and then sold them all out at cons for super cheap, like $5-10 a piece.
Yeah.
But
I don't want to tell you my feelings right now.
Well, you can't look back. I mean, we didn't know it was going to be the big sensation that TV is now. Have a TV show and be worth $1,000. You had no idea.
It's unreal that they made a TV show out of The Walking Dead.
Right.
And it's like still the number 1 watched TV show for 7 years in a row or whatever.
Yeah, here's a thing. I don't like it. I don't like the show.
Why?
It's boring.
What don't you like about it?
It's boring.
It's boring in what sense?
It just drabs on and on. It feels like in the show, it feels like the show, they'll do certain shots and scenes just to show bloody zombie scenes that don't affect the plot at all. And I just don't think it doesn't intrigue me. I mean, I don't like the comics fine, but I just don't care for the show.
That's interesting. So you've never liked it?
No, I watched it when it first came on. I was like, I've only watched the first couple episodes and got bored and didn't want to finish it. So.
Wow. See, I'm the exact opposite. I loved it. Thought Frank Darabont's direction in the first season was amazing. I like the fact that they don't always, they go through some episodes where it's really gory, but they don't always do that either. They concentrate a lot on the human interaction. And that's the scarier part is you don't know how someone's going to be when you meet them on the road comparatively to the zombies. The zombies come more like an animal,
right.
Because they're just there and their reaction to everything.
Right, you got to remember too. I'm basing my opinion of the show on 3 episodes. I watched 3 episodes and got bored.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. See, I really liked it, and so I've watched them all, and I can't wait for the next season to start.
And that's fine.
They just finally did the big. They finally did the big kill of Glenn.
Right.
Which Negan. I knew was coming. I was like, I wonder when Negan's going to kill Glenn, and and they showed the bat and they showed the scene, and then they end it, and and everybody's all mad about who'd he kill, and it's like. He killed Glenn.
Yeah, it's in the comic. Glenn.
I mean, the comic book and the show have gone off on different areas, but
right,
they still kind of trying to bring it back, so they're still parallel because Kirkman has a lot of say in what happens on the TV show as well.
Yeah, he does.
So I don't know. I really enjoy it. I'm surprised that you don't like it, but if you're not into that sort of genre, then it's easy not to like. My surprise is the people that you meet that do like it, that don't like horror movies or supernatural shows or anything like that, but love The Walking Dead.
Right. Yeah. There's a huge population of people like that too, which is cool. And I'm happy. I don't know. I'm indifferent to Walking Dead. Like I think it's cool. It's out there. It's a cool concept to make horror and comics in the mainstream, and a lot of people love it, which is awesome. Which has turned people on to reading those comics as well as other comics. People who didn't normally read comics, are reading comics because of that show, and other shows like it, which I think is awesome. It's just not a show for me. I don't care about it. It's kind of like Game of Thrones. I don't care about Game of Thrones either.
See, I love Game of Thrones too.
I know you do.
Yeah, that was God, I love Game of Thrones. It's just so fun and just so outlandish and just so you don't know what's going to happen. Anybody could die at any moment. I mean, there's just a couple people that they're not going to kill Delise, the Queen of the Dragons. I can't remember her, Khaleesi. They're not going to kill her right away. She might die at some point.
Right.
It was really good, and I don't know. It's fun. Me and Tafine sit back and we watch it, and we have a good time. And I remember she was sick, and I brought it over to her house, and she watched the first season I swear to God, in one day, and she was just like, "Oh my God, this is so good."
I watched 3 episodes, and I was like, "Okay, it's interesting, it's cool," but then I was like, "I don't want to invest the rest of my life into this show."
It ends after next year, so they have this season that starts up on Sunday, right?
Right.
And this season is short. And then after this season, they do one more season, and then that's it. But, of course, HBO has already said, well, we could do other things around the show and, things like that.
Right, which they'll do, but whatever. And they won't be as successful because spinoffs never are.
But the main storyline is a lot of fun, and we'll see how it ends. I started reading the books. I read the first 2, and then after that, I was done. I was like, these are too long.
I started the first book, and I was like, too many words. I don't have time for this.
Too many words.
I don't know.
I need pictures.
Shut up. I don't mind, wordy books. It's got to be something I'm interested in. I didn't care. Like I like fantasy movies and fantasy stories and stuff, but when it comes to reading a fantasy novel, I'm always like,
too many notes.
I don't care.
So I love my favorite movie of it's just about my favorite movie of all time is Amadeus.
I fucking love that movie.
I know you know this movie, but there's the scene where he goes, where the Emperor of Austria is listening to the opera, and what's his name? F. Mary Abraham's character, I can't remember who, Salieri, is talking about how wonderful this thing is and how much he hates it and how much he hates Amadeus and how can God give this guy so many things. And then the emperor yawns during the performance and he's like, oh my God, it was like a gift from God. One yawn, it can survive. 2 yawns, then he's only get 3 shows.
Right.
And they got done and everybody claps and there's roses being thrown up and he gets up on the stage and he does this whole thing. And then the emperor gets up and he's like, you liked it, sire. You really, really liked it. And he's like, well, at some point, there's only so many notes the royal ear can handle. I think there's just too many notes.
There's too many notes.
I don't understand. And that's what I was, when you said it was wordy, all I can think of. There's too many notes.
I love that movie too.
That's what you'll hear me and my brother say. And there it is, because it's from Amadeus.
Nice.
The emperor says it over and over again. And there it is. Stupid stuff.
So I'm a member of all these Facebook groups for comic collecting and, people who buy and sell comics and stuff like that, as well as some creator groups and stuff. But in this one group today, this lady posted up about an experience she had that she was pissed about. And the dumbed down version of it was essentially she went to her LCS or her local comic book store, picked up a copy of Spectacular Spider-Man #1. Now, the one on the shelf, somebody in the store had put off one of the 1 in 100 variants of the sketch cover on the shelf on accident, and she picked that one up. Very well, she knew what it was, and she even admitted in the post that she knew what it was, but she knew it was the variant that should be priced for more than the cover price. However, she thought, oh, it's on the rack. I'm only going to pay cover price for it. She took it up to the front counter. The manager, the owner of the store, was up there. And he goes, oh, I apologize. This is supposed to be on the back wall. My son, put comics out last night to help me out, and he didn't realize that the variants go on the back wall. I can't sell it to you for cover price, but I can sell it to you for $25. And mind you, the comic that she's holding in her hand, Midtown Comics has on their website right now for $297. She gets upset and she pays the $25, but she makes this post saying the manager they should just give it to me for cover price because it's their fault they put it on the store shelves. They should honor the prices they put on the store shelves. And went off on this tirade about how, well, they messed up, so they should have to pay for it, which kind of irritated me because, one, I hate variant covers for the most part, but two, that's how a lot of those stores make their money is those stupid variants they have to order so many books to get that they can then sell for a premium. And she got a book selling for $300 on Midtown for $25, and she's bitching about it.
Yeah, so I'm in agreement with you. And so let's explain. So when they say 1 in 100, they mean that comic book store had to buy 100 copies of that one
right.
Issue to receive the variant. So you have 1 in 25, 1 in 10, 1 in 100, 1 in 50, 1 in 5,000. Can you imagine if you owned a comic book store and you had to buy 5,000?
Well, this one's different though. Hold on. This one to get this cover, you had to meet a threshold of ordering last month's Amazing Spider-Man #23 to be able to order this one. So it wasn't like you had to order 100 of the first issue as well. You had to meet the criteria the month before to be able to order this one.
Yes, they put even more. Yeah, they put more on it. And when you're looking at a comic book store, most of those guys they're not making a ton of money.
No, they're not.
People who own a comic book store is not in it for the money.
For
they're
love.
in it because they love the genre.
Exactly.
It really is about the love of the genre. They love the community that they're a part of, and they love providing a service that they can really get behind.
Right.
Because you can get behind it, and they can get behind it. And if they don't do this, that industry could go away. All of a sudden, everything will be digital, and it would suck.
Right.
And it's important to support your local comic book store and support those guys that are out there working their butt off.
Right.
Because that's a big deal. And they put a lot of money in to get that variant. And that lady should know better because if she's a comic book collector, she knows better.
Oh, she knew what it,
right?
She knew what it was worth.
This isn't Walmart.
She knew what it was worth. She knew what she had in her hand, and she was just pissed that she couldn't buy it for $4. Like she thought she'd have to, and she had to pay $25, which is still a good deal for it. And I mean, if you buy variants, it's still a good deal for what that variant's worth.
No, that guy should have said, look, it cost me this much just to get that book. I have to sell it for this.
Right.
And he should be putting it on there for $200 or whatever the going rate is, because that's what he needs to make it worth doing it.
Right. Well, and I see it in the thread.
He was being generous to it.
Yeah. In the thread, there were people arguing in both directions, right? There were people saying, one guy was like, oh, I own a comic book store and I have for the last 6 years. And if this happened to me, I would have given it to you for cover price. I'm like, good. That's you. And that's also fine.
Bullshit.
Even if he's telling the truth, right? Even if that's what he would have done, that's also fine to do that. But it's also not bad customer service to say, I'm sorry, I have to sell it to you for this price, not the cover price because of how I had to get it. Like neither one of those options is bad customer service. Had it been priced for $4 and he'd be like, no, fuck you, I can't do that. And he'd been rude. That'd be bad customer service, like she was saying. But he was polite and he was like, hey, I can't sell it to you for this. So, I mean, like either option's fine. You can do both things, but don't be a dick about what you get,
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing if they had it behind the rack and they're like, it's $25. And then you go to buy it and they pull up eBay and see how much it's sold for lately. Oh, well, it just sold for $200, so I got to up it. That would be one thing.
But anyways, that thread, like if you read through that thread, right, and she kept responding, and everything she responded was like, well, I should have got it for cover price. That's what I was on the shelf. He lied. I'm like, no, he didn't. I made a couple comments. I usually stay out of Facebook threads like that because I don't give a shit about the drama. But on this one, I was like, wait, hold on. You're being kind of a fucking bitch here. I mean, I would said it nicer, but I was like, I said a couple of things, and I was like, this thread kind of disgusts me because you people expect shit for free or expect to get reduced treatment for a mistake that doesn't affect you at all besides you not getting this book for super cheap. Respect the comic book store you're in.
Right.
Don't go, oh, well, you didn't give me this book for $4. You're wanting over $21. I'm going to pull all my books from your shop and go somewhere else. You're a fucking little cunt if you do that. I mean, seriously. You're sitting there telling him, oh,
yeah, that's
you're sitting there telling the store owner, oh, you're going to lose business over $21. Like, oh, you're going to pull your books over $21 when you're trying to rip somebody off. You're a fucking idiot.
I mean, that's just ridiculous. I mean, it's bad. You don't want customers like that.
No, I've always been like, fuck you, go away.
You know?
But I don't know. I get passionate about things, and as I talk fast. I get really passionate about shit.
Well, it's tough because the comic book store guy is like, the people that have boxes, and I don't know if you collect comic books and you know that you get a box at a comic book store, then when their titles come in, they pull those titles automatically and stick it in your box for ones that you like to collect. And then you go in, you can purchase you get all your ones out of your box, and then you can go onto see what's on the shelf and get other things that you want to get.
Right.
But a lot of comic book stores live and die on their subscriptions from the people that come in weekly to buy.
They make the living off of two things: the weekly people and the people who come in to buy the variants. That's how they stay open. That and game nights, like they do magic nights and shit too.
Yeah, exactly. And so having people like that that's not a customer you want. I mean, that's just bad. That's just bad all around.
And this is for me.
I'd have a hard time not punching her in the face.
Right. For me, this is coming from a guy who doesn't actually go to a local comic. I don't go to comic book stores very often. When I do, I'm usually looking for certain issues and stuff like that because I don't have a pull list right now just because I've moved a couple of times in the last year, so I canceled all my pull lists because I just couldn't.
You have 5 kids.
Yeah, I have 5 kids. It didn't work out.
You have 5 mouths to feed.
Right, and they can't eat comics. I know, but I mean, when I did go to a comic, I always made sure, even when I would order some online, right? Because I would have a subscription box with the guy online that knew I could get books for really cheap. I still had a box at a local store to support that local store. Because you know what, these stores, they need to stay open. There needs to be a comic book store you can go into and talk to people and like have those conversations. You can't just have that online all the time.
I mean, really, she should have been talking to the manager and just say, well, voice her displeasure with what happened and be frustrated because I can get her mentality of going in and going, oh my God, because nothing as a collector, nothing is a bigger rush than going into back issues for like $1 comic issue and going through, and all of a sudden you're seeing like the what if comic of what if Jane Foster was Thor.
Right.
And just 2 weeks ago, Jane Foster is Thor. So the what if version of Jane 4 from like 1985 is like all of a sudden $50.
Right.
And you get to buy it for $1. That's a big rush. Right. It's a find. That's a find. I mean, that's what you live for if you collect comic books, that's what you live for. If you're not going into back issues and hunting and knowing which ones you like and which ones are worth, if you're an actual real collector, then that is the biggest rush that you get. But going into something when it just came out on the shelf, you know for a fact that it's a mistake, right. and that's a big mistake. Then you're not showing support for that guy. And why do you shop there? It's
like, so years ago, I went into a shop on Bainbridge Island, and it was a toy shop that also had comic books. Right, it was right after. It was probably about 11 to 15 months into New 52. So somewhere in 2012, right? They had up on their wall, they had their new comics, and on the top rack, they had Justice League #1 RRP cover and the Green Lantern #1 RRP cover, which is the retailer's incentive cover. I have to jump in here real quick. It wasn't the RRP covers. They were the sketch cover variants, the 1 in 100 or 1 in 200, whatever. They were sketch covers of the Justice League 1 and the Green Lantern 1. After re-listening to this to the edit here, I realized that they didn't do an RRP for Green Lantern, so it couldn't have been that. So, all right, back to the show. What you could only get, they're hard to get. There were the Justice League 1 at the time was worth like $300. The Green Lantern 1 was worth like $150, something like that. And I went over there, I saw them, I was like, oh, cool. They weren't priced. So I pulled them down to ask him, hey, how much are these comics? What are the price on them? Along with about 6 or 7 other comics that I was going to buy from them that day. I went to the counter and he's like, oh, they're cover price. And I was like, oh, these are all cover price. He's like, yeah. I was like, so this is a $4 book. He's like, yeah. So are you sure this book's worth more than $4? I was trying to be like, hey, you sure you want to sell this to me for $4? Because this is an expensive book. He's like, yeah. I just left over from.
You might want to look at
it. I didn't say that, but I was like, it's worth more than that. He's like, yeah, I know, but it's been here for 3 years, and you're the first person to ever pull it down, and it's cover price. So all my books, we sold all of our books on the walls for cover price, regardless of what they are.
Fair game.
I was like, okay, that's I've given you the option. I don't want to rip you off. I want the deal, but this is $4 for a $300 book is kind of a huge thing. I believe in being honest with yourself, at least, And so he set the price. I was like, all right, I paid him for it. And then I kind of felt guilty after that. And I kind of went back to the shop every couple of days and bought a couple more books from him.
But you told him it was worth more.
Yeah. And to be honest,
it's up to him to. It'd be one thing if you pulled it down and you said, "Hey, what's the price in this?" And he goes, "Oh, let me double check." And he goes, "Oh man, it's $150. It's $150 book." And you'd be like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
you gave him the option.
And to be fair,
it's a completely different scenario.
It is. And to be completely fair, at that time when I bought them, I didn't know what they were worth. I knew what they were, but I wasn't aware of how much they were worth. I thought they were worth like, anywhere from like $50 to $100, somewhere in that range. I wasn't really clear on the price until I got home and looked up. I was like, oh shit.
It's kind of nice when you buy a book and then all of a sudden you get endorphins when something like that happens.
Yeah, you do.
You know what I mean? Get released and you get an adrenaline shot. Like I bought that Trump versus Hillary.
I want one.
Which is
one of
Hillary, those. The Hillary versus the incredulous Trump.
Right, the Hulk 181 cover.
It's a classic variant of the cover, the 181 cover. And then you flip it over, it's the first Civil War cover.
Oh, nice.
So it's pretty funny.
I want it.
And Russ at Mill Geek Comics, which is sponsoring us to be going down to the SDCC, the San Diego Comic-Con. So shout out to Mill Geek Comics in Mill Creek. Matter of fact, we're going to be sponsored by them for the next how many episodes?
I think it's the first 10 episodes are sponsored by Mill Geek. Sorry.
Starting with the San Diego Comic-Con episodes.
So we'll be talking about them a lot.
So yeah, they're a great store. If you're in Mill Creek or around Mill Creek, or if you just want a good store to go to for Magic or for comic books or Magic the Gathering contests, and you can speak better about Magic because I don't know anything at all.
Or if you're like me and just like to search out comic book stores wherever you go, because wherever I go, I always pull out my phone and type in comic book and go to like the comic book stores around. Even if I don't buy anything, I like to go look at them. This is a good one. This is a good one to check out.
So and the owner is very knowledgeable. You can start talking about anything, and he makes you feel like he wants you to be there, as opposed to you don't know enough.
And you don't feel pressure to buy stuff either.
That's right. No pressure at all. Matter of fact, Johnny brought in a bunch of Magic cards. Russ went right through them and told him exactly how much everything was worth.
I was impressed.
And basically did a free assessment for him. Within 5 minutes, he went through how many
probably
cards?
About 1,000. As a guy who's been playing Magic,
100 cards?
Probably 1,000 cards. But as a guy who's been playing Magic since the early 90s when they first came out, and to have somebody go through and like that knowledgeable more than me, it was impressive.
Yeah, $5, $2, $10, $200, $5, $10.
Exactly.
So
I was like,
what?
How do you know all this shit?
It was spot on every price, and it was flat fast.
Yeah,
it was crazy. Anyways, he purchased that book. He got some of those books in, and it's a coloring book, and he just had it, and he had it on the Civil War side, and it was just funny because he flipped it over to the Hulk 181, and he basically sold out right away, except for one copy that he had sitting in the back room where he keeps all the back issues, and it was up with the graphic novels. And I went back there, and I was like, oh my God, that is so funny. And I bought it. And I bought it for cover price. And like a week later, I check it online, and it's selling for like $50.
I know, right? You said to me, I
was like, you gotta be kidding. Hey, I got something special for you.
Oh, yeah?
Though.
What's that?
And I'm going to tell you what it is, because a part of me wants to open it up and put it together and then give it to you. But being that you're of a collecting mind as myself, I don't know that you want me to rip open the cellophane.
Well, it depends on what it is.
So the Dark Knight Master Race, Dark Knight 3 by Frank Miller. Yeah. And they just did they just finished the 9-issue cover. I purchased all of the hardcovers.
Oh, really?
And then I got the box set that you put all of those in.
Oh, damn.
And I wanted to give that to you because you've given me a ton of books.
Fuck yeah.
Johnny gave me the giant size X-Men number 1.
Yep.
Which that was a big deal for me because that's what I read back when I was really small. X-Men and Spider-Man. That was
I gave it to you because of your affinity for X-Men, talking about Marvel all the time. And I had it, and I'm not a huge fan of Marvel and stuff. Yeah. I figured, well, it'd be better in your collection than in my collection. Right. I just had it because it was like,
it could be a better comic, right? But whatever.
Sorry. I just had it because it was a key issue. Like, I'm not going to sell it. I don't care. I'm all about having.
Yeah, it's the first appearance of Colossus.
Right.
It's
first Storm.
First appearance of Storm. It's the first appearance of a lot of key characters. That's their first.
It's the second Wolverine too.
That's right. It's the second appearance of Wolverine. Yep. Well, technically it's
the third, right? But second full appearance. How's that?
So I really appreciate it, and I wanted to give you something but I was like, I don't have anything. The things that I have that I know you'd want, I don't want to give up.
Right.
Like, I'm not giving up my 9.4 first appearance of Harley Quinn, right? Or my 9.8 Saga #1,
right?
You know, those are hard ones to go. Oh, I want to give these, but this I thought was cool because I got everything. I bought it as they came out. So you buy the books as they come out, and then you got when you pre-ordered #9, you got the cardboard.
That's cool. That's
box to put all of them in, cool. Because the spines create the cover.
Oh, do they? I haven't even seen this collection.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
There's a picture on the spine.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I didn't know if you wanted me to open it up and put them all in the box.
Oh no, yeah, definitely.
And then because I'm going to see you at least by Monday.
Yeah, you'll see me Monday. You'll see me Monday. Yeah.
Because we're going to leave Monday night.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're heading out Monday. Kyle's going to get here Monday afternoon, so we're going to leave after Kyle and Kristen get here to take over watching the kids. And we'll probably head out Monday night and start driving to California.
Yeah. So I don't know if you want me to open it up and put them all in?
Yeah, definitely. Send me a picture.
You want me to leave it?
No, open it up. Send me a picture.
Okay.
I'm excited. I'm excited for this. I'm very excitable. Okay.
So I never opened I've never opened up any of the books.
Oh, nice.
Like never. They're all still in their original plastic, shrink wrapped by the publisher, or probably. I don't know if Diamond does it or if DC does it and then goes to Diamond, then goes whatever. However it happens. So they've never been opened. So they're all in like pristine mint as they can be.
Nice. That's awesome.
So, because I have all the original covers and a couple variants of the actual stuff. But the hardback edition I thought was really cool. And they put out quite a few, but they didn't put out as many as, Jim Lee did a cover, though, that was ridiculous that you can't get. It's like 1 in 5,000 variant or something like that, or 1 in 2,500 variant.
Jim Lee's covers are usually pretty awesome.
Yeah, I want to read Hush. I haven't read Hush yet. Can
what?
you believe that?
Dude, Hush is so good.
I know. I know of Hush. I know all about Hush. I know that Hush is the primary reason that Jim Lee is the publisher of DC Comics.
Well, so it's actually
the CEO.
It's two parts. It's two parts. He's the CEO, creative officer, chief creative officer. But he so it was two things that got him there. One, it was the Hush, and it was also the Superman 204 when he took over the Superman series as well. And he did a storyline in Superman that is just amazing too. So and those came out one right after the other, and it was like, okay, this guy gets it.
Do you want to see a really cool interview with Jim Lee? Is watch the Pop Culture show with Mark Hamill. I think it's Pop Culture. I can't remember what it's called. But Mark Hamill has a show with what's the name? It's like with the Comic-Con channel or something like that. And it's online, right? Mm-hmm. It's the same one that does the who's the guy that plays in Firefly? The two guys in Firefly.
Oh, Alan Tudyk, Nathan Fillion.
Pilot.
They play Con Man.
Yeah, have you seen Con Artist?
Con Man.
Have you seen
Con
that?
Man. No, I have not. So I've watched the trailer
Con
for it.
Man,
I haven't actually watched it though. I know what it is though.
It's so funny, dude. You got to watch it. It is so funny. But they're on that show. Con Man is on the same channel as Mark Hamill's Pop. I think it's called Pop Culture, and he just goes and talks to different collectors. It's really interesting. And one of the things is he goes to the DC universe or DC Studios and meets Jim Lee, and they do a short 20-minute interview. And during it, Jim Lee is drawing a picture of Batman or the Joker, of course, for Mark Hamill.
Nice.
And then Mark Hamill leaves voicemail on Jim Lee's cell phone as the Joker.
Which one do you want more, right? Do you want Mark Hamill's Joker? Do you want, as a fan or a collector, do you want to have Mark Hamill do your voicemail on the Joker, or do you want the drawing from Jim Lee? I don't know.
Jim Lee.
Well, yeah, I know, but
for me it'd be Jim Lee.
Yeah,
because I like the Joker, you know what I mean. But I don't know, just Jim Lee's art for me is more like, okay, put it this way, anybody can draw Batman and anybody can do the voice of the Joker. That's a hard question, actually. Now I think more about it,
right? Because
because they're both pretty iconic.
Not anybody can do that voice.
When it's Mark Hamill doing the Joker.
Oh yeah, and it's perfect. It's the perfect voice.
He does a good job on it. It's kind of funny because it's Luke Skywalker, and you didn't think he'd do anything else but be Luke Skywalker. Now he has two iconic roles.
Two very iconic roles. Yeah.
I mean, the Joker might not be as iconic for some people as it is for you and I, but It's still very iconic in the realm of geekdom.
Exactly. Yeah. But when people hear the joke, hear that voice, they know who it is, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's really neat. It's really neat. I was surprised when they had him on. Was it the Flash?
Right.
And he was playing. I don't know who was he playing.
Trickster. Do you know why though? Do you know why he?
Yeah, the Trickster.
Do you know why he was a trickster on the Flash?
No.
Because in the 1990s TV show, he was the trickster on The Flash. So he was reprising his role as the trickster from the 1990s TV show Flash in the current one.
Oh, really?
Yes, and they even had him in a similar costume design.
I had no idea.
Yep. So
I think I only watched like the first episode of Flash because that wasn't on very long, right?
It was on for about a year and a half or so.
Yeah, they kept changing the timelines. They kept changing days and everything.
So that old Flash show is loosely connected to the new Flash show in certain elements, certain ways, in some ways.
Well, I remember the costume being pretty good in the 90s version.
For a 90s TV show, our 90s costume was pretty good. It was muscle padded pretty bad, but yeah.
Did you watch the new version of The Tick on Amazon Prime?
I watched the pilot episode, yeah.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, I watched it.
I don't think they've come out with this. I've only watched the pilot.
Oh,
what did you think?
I liked it. It comes out, so the full one comes out next month. But so here's my thoughts on The Tick. I liked it. I enjoyed the way they kind of did like the gritty reboot with it a little bit, but they kept The Tick kind of a doofus.
The gritty reboot.
Oh, they did. But the only thing I didn't like really about that pilot was the costume. I thought the costume was it didn't look right, but they have redone the costume for the actual show, and the new costume they've done looks a lot better. Like the costume on the pilot has very textured, there's a lot of like texturing to it, and then the one they actually do on the actual show, they've redone it. It's more in line with what the Patrick Warburton was back in the early 2000s, where it's more of a sleek look. It looks more connected, like it's more than a suit that he's just wearing all the time. So they've taken what's cool.
I thought they were doing Patrick Warburton again. When I heard they were doing The Tick, I thought they were just bringing him back.
They talked about it, and I wish they would have, because he was so perfect for that role. But he's a lot older now too. That was 10 years ago.
Didn't he do the cartoon too? Was that him doing the cartoon?
No,
doing the cartoon.
No, that was somebody else.
Oh God, the cartoon was so funny, man.
Yeah, I loved the cartoon.
Must have chicken noodle soup.
Funny side story: back in 2002, when my dad and I were down at Comic-Con in San Diego, we, the guys from New England Comics who published The Tick, and the Bill Edmonds, or fuck his name is, the guy who created The Tick. They're all there at their booth, and my dad and I started talking to him about stuff because my mom's a huge Tick fan, so we always buy her Tick comics. She has like a whole collection of Tick comics. So we're down there talking to him, and
that's hilarious.
And my dad bought this like super limited Tick #1 that they were doing for the con back then. It was like signed by 13 people from the company that worked on the Tick. And when my dad's talking, he was like, "Hey, I love the Tick. I've watched the cartoon, I've read the comics, but I always had this weird theory that the Tick is actually the long lost son of George of the Jungle." And the guy was like, Bill was like, "That's actually brilliant and perfect. I wish I could use that." So in unfunny way, the Tick is George of the Jungle's son in our own little headcanon that the creator agrees with, which is
funny.
Cool.
That is cool. George of the Jungle.
George of the Jungle. My mom dated a guy named George back in the 70s or 60s, and she ended up breaking up with him because her brothers and sisters would always just sing George of the Jungle to her all the time.
You could have had a very different life.
Right. I wouldn't be here if that happened to be somebody else. So
you might still be you, just a little different.
So I sent to you earlier today, Kenric, to the Humble Bundle, which I'm a huge fan of the Humble Bundle. I buy comics and games off of there all the time because you can either have all of the money you give or a portion of the money you give all goes straight to charity. So these companies will donate, like comics, they'll donate digital comics for you to get, or games to download onto Steam and stuff like that. You can buy for $1 or $10 or $15 to get these amounts. You can also donate whatever you want. Sometimes people will donate $1,000 to get all the games, just kind of all go on the charity. But what I'm bringing up for is the one I sent you today was one for a Jack Kirby Will Eisner bundle, which it's all a bunch of comic books and stuff from Kirby and Eisner had done, which is, if you know comic books, Kirby and Eisner are two of the greatest that ever lived. And
right.
It's not just
they get the spirit in there.
Right. It's not just their offshoot stuff. There's Kirby at DC, there's Marvel stuff, there's the Spirit, there's stuff that did for the major publishers, as well as some of the offshoot stuff people might not know. And it's got the autobiography of Jack Kirby in there, and just a bunch of great stuff that if you love comic books.
Yeah, there's also
this is great stuff. If you love comics, this is something you should definitely look into, because you get to read stuff and see stuff from two of the greatest that have ever lived. The standard people are held to the standard of Will Eisner and Jack Kirby even today, and they were from the golden age on.
Well, there's a reason that there's the Eisner Awards when it comes to comic books.
Right, exactly. And Jack the King Kirby is, love him or hate his artwork, the guy knew how to tell a story.
Dude, the classic hands of Kirby.
Right. He's very blocky, but
always coming right out at you.
Yep. His artwork was blocky, but he knew how to frame a story and create a world and create characters.
Oh yeah, he was great. He was great. You can't deny. I mean, Kirby has some of the best art ever because he created the foundation of what people do today.
Exactly.
A lot of the stuff that you see is just people trying to be Kirby.
Right. So if you just go to humblebundle.com and just
cool.
go to the book bundles, you'll see it there. I bought it, and it's definitely worth getting if you want some good digital comics.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I think I should probably get one tonight.
Yeah.
Because they also have where isn't Alex Ross and somebody else in there, and they're using characters created by Kirby, and creating and doing a storyline.
Yep, they have some of the stuff from the 90s and 80s where they took his characters and kind of told the stories based on his notes and stuff like that.
I wonder what Kirby would think of today's books and the storylines they're producing today, because there's some pretty sophisticated storylines now. I think the writing is really good right now.
Writing has gotten a lot better in comics. I don't know. I think you'd enjoy it. I mean,
well, I think like in the 90s, writing went downhill, right?
Right.
You probably had some good writers, but they weren't given the form to write.
Right.
You know, it's just all about boobs and ass. I swear to God.
It was so ridiculous.
That's all it was about. And yeah. And so they realized, writing is what pushes everything forward. Writing is what you're reading. You're not just looking at pictures, you're reading, and that's a major part of what's going on. The angles and the drama comes out of the writing, not so much just the pictures. So it's interesting. But, you know, at some point we got to have an episode talking about variant covers, because you and I are both passionate about what variants are and what they do to the industry, and when it's appropriate to have a variant,
right? And
as opposed to what they're doing.
We can talk about that on the next episode.
Curious. Yeah, think about what you think some of those other artists of yesteryear or creators of yesteryear would think of the variant covers of today. They might love it. I don't know.
Check out that bundle. Check out the other shit we talked about on this show, because we know what we're talking about halfway sometimes, maybe.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, even if we don't know what we're talking about, we have passion for what we're talking about.
Right,
so,
right.
There's a lot to be said for that.
And I'm okay with being wrong.
Being wrong is fine. I'm okay with being wrong.
Yeah.
I'll be the first one to admit it.
Maybe.
Or maybe I'll be stubborn and say, I'm not wrong.
I'm not wrong.
It's all opinion.
You're wrong. You're wrong. Next episode, we're going to talk about Copperhead, and then we're going to talk about our thoughts on the variant covers and whatever else kind of tangent shits we go down. That episode, so as of right now, I don't know if we're going to record that before or after Comic-Con, but hopefully because
we're definitely having a lot of material coming out of San Diego Comic-Con.
Right.
So we might not have time to get to that point, because we both have full-time jobs and little people at home that we take care of.
Right.
And so we got to get beyond that to be able to get this. We kind of carve out time to do this, and it gets difficult. So
right.
We'll shoot for maybe Sunday if we can. If not, maybe I can come down and we can do it Monday at your house.
Right before we leave. Yeah, that'd be fine.
And go from there.
We'll figure it out. I mean,
that might actually be fun to do an episode in your little studio there.
Yeah, knowing us, we'll probably do it before we go, because we want to do it.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun right now doing this. We're constantly talking about, when are we going to do the next podcast? What do you want to talk about this? Have you done this? Have you done that? And we're sending each other material all the time. And now that I'm reading a ton of comic books, well, I always read a lot of comic books, but now that I'm telling you my pull list, you might be like, shit, I got to read some more books.
I got to pick up my reading, man. I got to keep up.
Well, at least get, and like we said before, though, we don't want this to only be comic books. It's just that we have a lot of passion for comic books. So it's hard when we start talking that it doesn't pull back, but we will talk about other things at some point. But
yeah,
right now it's all, comic books are death.
Right. And there probably won't ever be an episode we don't talk about comic books in some shape or form. But yeah, we'll try and do stuff, branch out of our comfort zone.
All right. Well, there you go, guys. I just said it. I said something I would never want to say is guys.
You did.
Like, there's an audience out there. Please edit that out, or not, and say me saying please edit that out. But there you go. So this is Kenric. That's Johnny. I guess we're going to sign out, and we'll see you guys. I did it fucking again. Are you kidding me?
All right, try one more time. Try one more time, and I'll edit all those out. Try one more time.
All right, it was a good conversation today. Thanks, Johnny, for joining me. This is Kenric. That's Johnny. We're out of here.